Hey you guys, good morning. It's MJ. How are you? Today I want to talk about the fine or refining the subtle awareness of surrender and control, and what those two kind of polarities can represent, and how we can also even flip them around. So recognize that control patterns, and control patterns are limiting ultimately. So we tend to create control patterns around trauma ultimately, and like unworthiness vibes. So unworthiness, not enoughness, I'm not good enough, that kind of feeling. And then in our lives, because of the trauma, we want to kind of unconsciously protect the pain body. So we create patterns of control: exercise, food, relationships, shopping patterns, anything in our world, anything that we relate to, any kind of relationship we have with anything outside of us, whether it's a human sentient being or a substance or an activity, can become an energy stream of control. So, and the control you really want to do, you really want to kind of liken it to like gripping on for dear life, because underneath the grip is fear. Fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of your power, fear of fear. Because underneath the fear is still a wound of separation, a core wound belief that you're separate from everything. And so really that's the fundamental teaching, is the flip, that I'm separate versus I'm integrated, or I'm separate versus I'm one with and I'm belonging with. And that's, as we connect to the emotional body, more and more of us will begin to discover, not just discover, but really embody the connection to the source that you are, as the manifester, as the creator that you are, and then be that creator, right? So this topic, like so many, to me, are helping people understand the bridging process. So many years ago, I talked about cuspers, and like, when we're on the cusp, like we're just beginning to have awakenings, and we're cusping, we're dipping in and out. We'll dip into a yoga class, or we'll dip into meditation, or we'll dance around the edges of some of this stuff until the control patterns become too limited. And that's the flip of the paradigm here, right? Is that when we're in the control patterns, surrender is like a psh. Why would I ever do that, right? We deny, we ridicule, we just try to ignore. And also we perceive surrender as a weakness. We perceive surrender like I've failed or I'm defeated, right? So we surrender. So that's like from the control perspective, which most of us are brought into, because the whole system is basically based on control from a perception of separation, right? Hence the tag of like global structural foundation rebuild, is that as we're doing all this shape shifting from within, reversing the world's paradigm, we are focused our energy on building structures from a more solid foundation, one that's integrated rather than disembodied, right? So that we're not just looping around in these rather shit circumstances of poverty and violence. We'll integrate all the anger threads through honoring our own disempowered state of disconnection, and then building from the new. And then here's the more powerful aspect of building a foundation with a more secure foundation, is that, so when you're in the control, you reject the surrender, right? Ooh, surrender. It's like vulnerability. Ooh, being vulnerable. Ooh, feeling denial of the feminine, denial of the void, denial of the black, the dark, right? So as we own and transform and we begin to integrate, we begin to realize that the control is an illusion. It is of our creation, but it's an illusion, and it's an illusion that's actually now creating more suffering. So we belt through the suffering, and within the suffering belt, we tend to surrender and surrender and surrender, because the illusion mask is coming off. seeing and penetrating through the veil of the illusion allows the surrender to happen, because you realize it's all an illusion. So you're like, what am I actually doing? Let go, surrender, right? And then here's the, like, it's almost like a continual, it is like a continual wheel of fortune, a spiraling, expansive, eternal cycle of growth. But okay, so like control, and then suffer, and then it's like surrender, and then surrender, and there's all this fear and different emotions that come up around surrender. But then weirdly, this surrender is actually another gateway into greater dominion of self. And it's not like when you come into total serenity from surrender that you're just like floating floating through air aimlessly. No, you're anchoring. So actually you're letting go of one level of creation dynamic, letting go of that through recognition of greater expanse through alignment, and then feeling into the alignment as you surrender the control patterns which limit your beingness, and then merge into that surrender space. And then the control takes on more of a vibrational mastery. So you recognize you're not trying to get from the external, you're always working from within. So the control's just gone from, control the external, sorry, my dirty smoothie clap, like, I must control these, otherwise they're gonna go mental. And then you let go. Well, that's a bad example, but and then you let go and you surrender that, and you think, well, I'm not gonna try to control that. And then from within, you're actually taking more ownership. That's like the big leap, right? Is that when people are still in complaint mode or still in separation, it's separate. There's lots of different little conflicts. Like, those people are wrong and I'm right, and that's good and I'm bad, and There's just this loop, right? Of like rightness and wrongness and polarity and duality. So surrender all of that, merge into the infinite oneness, be the presence, keep following the intuition, because it's always bouncing off of the contrast. So you're always sifting, and then kind of just have faith that we're building from anew with greater dominion of self. So I'm very much still working with extending that manifestation power, but it's not properly locked in. I know I can feel that I'm still building momentum with the inner subtlety of the work and dissolving control patterns. Control patterns are limiting. However, some of them will serve us if we're consciously working with certain control structures, things like addictions or things like just substance in general. We can be always working with, I would say, as long as we're clear and conscious about the choices that we're making, that we can work with substances to help or assist in a kind of enlivening. But again, it's about being really consciously aware of that, working from within self on a soul level, and harmonizing and working with the body and the self-healing to the best of our ability when we need to. So yeah, it's always kind of like flipping around, isn't it? Because then you get into surrender and you're looking at greater, again, it's not, I don't like the word control, but it's more about directing thought, dominion of self, that my energy is my own, that I'm always yoking my energetic connection so that I'm less pulled and swayed from the external, less buying into other people's stories. It's challenging, it can be, but I'm very much following through with my own. And then that's where I'm feeling this real, like, being straight up. The last couple of days, I've had these insights of like, I'm taking back what's mine from the patriarchy. It's like this energetic rebalancing of the divine feminine from within, saying, that's not yours. I'm taking that back. And it's a deep, profound energetic thing. Of course, I say that with love, not anger, because I'm the one who, in the first instance, gave my power to the external structure. I gave my power. I sold my soul, to the patriarchy or to the external. And now, as we integrate, rise, and shine, it's time for us to take those powers that are ours back into our energy and move them into that, what we call the new paradigm, right? Move them into inspired action in a direction that feels light-filled to us, not despairing. So there you have it. Surrender control, surrender. It's all there for us. Thank you guys so much for listening in today. I appreciate it. I always appreciate it. Have an awesome day, and I'll speak to you real soon. Peace out, y'all.